Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 16th episode of the Bombercast for season 2021. I am your host, Bonser34, this evening, back from my 1 week off the podcast, and I'm joined this evening by two very special guests, Dero and Jamu. How are you, lads, this evening?
Look, reeling from the announcement of a lockdown and a curfew, I was looking forward to my midnight stroll to get out and about, but that's been canned. But apart from that, pretty excited about the Bombers and finals football. Hopefully, here we come.
Yeah, I'm living the dream. Thanks for asking, Bonce.
It does sound like you are living the dream at the moment, mate. But before we start talking about the highs of your current situation, lockdown in Melbourne, we will dive into the game that we all saw yesterday, which is, of course, was Essendon versus the Suns down at Kardinia Park, and it's the first time we've won at Kardinia Park since 1990 was the last time we won there. I think I read on the board. What were your takeaways, Darryl? I thought our first quarter was pretty average, and then we just seemed to flick the switch at quarter time, turned up and ran all over them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we looked like we were just bombing it a bit in the first quarter, and then we got our running game going into the wind, which was really good, really dynamic. So, yeah, it was a good win in the end, but we didn't look that great in the first quarter.
Yeah, look, it was the wind, apparently. That's what we were told again and again and again by the inane commentary. It was all about the wind in the first quarter, that we didn't capitalise on it. So that was what I think was the problem in the first quarter. But I think also from memory, Bonds, it's I don't think we've ever played there twice in the one season.
No, I'd be surprised if we had before, because obviously we haven't had to have a game relocated. So I don't think anybody other than Geelong's actually ever called that a home ground prior to COVID.
Well, that was one of the stats that was announced by the Menses in the commentating box, which did strike me as an odd thing to latch onto. But yeah, you're right.
I just want to talk about the wind because it was mentioned on our board, and it was something that I actually thought while I was watching the game. I actually thought that the ball was carrying further when we were supposedly kicking into it and holding up when it was going the other way. I mean, clearly commentators would have been able to work out which way the wind was going. So obviously at the ground it was clearly blowing to the right of the screen or the way we were going in the first quarter. But just visually, I was amazed how much they kept referring to it, because it just didn't appear to be impacting the game anywhere near as much as, I mean, I think they said it was a 3 or 4 goal breeze, which it just did not come across that way sitting at home watching the game.
I think Chris Johnson did try to say it quite a few times, but they had his mic turned down so low that no one could hear him.
He's an odd one, that one. Not going to get into it now, but every time I see him, there's just, I don't want, I best not say anything, actually.
He's just very quiet, I think, is the way to put it. He's just quietly spoken, and it just doesn't seem to have the personality or the exuberance, I suppose, to be a commentator, which I suppose I grew up with Dipper in the 90s, and I don't know who you two grew up with in the 60s doing the recording, but
I think he comes across more as a seedy uncle type, but maybe it's just his softly spoken compared.
It was a game of one quarter, I was going to say 1 quarter, 3 quarters. But, Jamu, there is a bloke that Dero did say we should trade halfway through the year, and he kicked 5 goals again yesterday. So we'll just have a quick chat about Dero's mate Stringer. He's just unbelievable when he's in full flight. I mean, I know we say that regularly, but he just does stuff that you just sit back and go, how the hell did he pull that out of his ass? And he's doing it on a regular basis week to week right now.
Oh yeah, he was amazing again, and I think some of the efforts that he does that kind of don't fully get rewarded all the time are pretty big as well. But for such a unit that can do such awesome clearance work and then get into the forward line, bang a couple of goals through, and then back to the clearance machine, it's amazing to watch him.
He's a freak. And I'm glad we didn't trade him halfway through the year, Bonds. I think that was fantastic.
I think at the time you were trying to make a point, but I think at the time you might have had a couple of daddy juices and the point wasn't coming across as clearly as you thought it was. Is that a fair summary?
Look, there maybe, yes. Yes, there could have been a little bit in that. It was, fairly late at night. And I may have been taken out of context.
That doesn't sound like something that anybody who quoted you would do.
That's what everyone does. What are you talking about?
the other person I was impressed with first game back, Andy McGrath. He has been in the gym. He's looking huge.
Well, he's probably had not much else to do, really, because he hasn't been able to get out on the track a great deal. So he may as well have gone to the gym and bulked up a little bit.
He's got a beefy rear end, doesn't he? A bit of power through that posterior chain, I should say.
Yep, I noticed that too.
I mean, I was surprised that if you look at the stats, he only had 13 touches. He seemed to be a lot more involved in the game than that. His first couple of touches were very nervy, so I think Andy does seem to rush at times. But the more the game got on, he actually seemed to be a little bit more calm and composed under a bit of pressure. So I thought that was a pleasing return first game back.
I'm surprised it was only 13 touches. That's he did look like he was in amongst it a lot more than that.
The other bloke I thought played well again yesterday, and he's done it a couple of weeks in a row now, and that is Sam Draper. I thought he took Zach Smith to the cleaners yesterday. It certainly gave us the presence that we needed in the midfield, and he does love going for a run though, doesn't he? He just loves tucking that ball under the arm and having a crack and seeing how far he can get before he gets brought down.
Oh, look, it's good to see, and if he can stick the arm out and shove off a couple of would-be tacklers, it's even better. But he's great to watch. He is just someone that for the next 10 years is going to be awesome to sit back and watch. If he could learn to kick, it would be even better.
I think someone posted somewhere that they thought he'd be in calculations or in the running as an All-Australian maybe next year. If he keeps up the form of the last couple of weeks, 100%, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, that would be exciting.
I mean, the league does seem to have a few decent young ruckmen getting around. I mean, I know he took English I don't want to say to the cleaners because I just said it, but I'll say it again. Took English to the cleaners last week, but English is a pretty exciting young ruckman. Jackson from Melbourne's another one. It does seem just to be that little bit of depth in the ruck stocks in the league when I suppose if you go back only a couple of years ago, it was sort of Brodie Grundy, Max Gawn, Nick Nat, Todd Goldstein, and not much else really.
Yeah, I think I've probably said in the past that the ruckman is probably one of the most overrated positions in the entire game. Having said that,
I'd love you to say that to Sam Draper's face, mate.
Having said that, when you get a good ruckman like the couple that you mentioned, it does act as an extra midfielder when the ball hits the ground.
Especially when you can move like Draper. I don't mind the big fella that's playing in the seconds at the moment as well, Brian. I reckon he looks like he's got a bit of upside as well. We might struggle to keep him if Draper is playing this well and he can't get into the side.
Well, I think Jay Moose sort of said a little bit there where if Draper could kick straight, it would be much better because Draper can clunk a mark. He is very good around the ground at clunking a mark. And I think Brian's pretty handy up forward as well as a sort of a pinch hitter. So the two of them could very well just start forming a formidable partnership and rotating, which then would, of course, free Peter Wright up to be the full-time centre-half forward or full forward coming out of the goal square. So it's almost...
Going back to two dedicated rucks in the team. Well, not dedicated rucks, but two.
Controversial.
Well, it is, but, I mean, when's the last time we had two gun rucks that we could play side by side? I mean, David Hill and Paddy Wright have probably played side by side for a bit.
Yeah. I think David Hill was great going forward.
I mean, Paddy got his chance when Hill did the knee on Anzac Day that time.
That was, did very well. But I wouldn't be against it, especially if, Draper's no slouch around the ground. He'll get his hands dirty and tackle. And, if he could go forward and have a little bit more confidence in his kicking, then it could be a game changer.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned his tackling because I said on the board a few weeks ago that I'd like him just to be that little bit harder. I thought a couple of times he was very, very aware of his size, and as such probably wasn't driving the tackles as hard as he could. But you don't want the Shane Mumford style thumping blokes behind play. But I just thought he could hit blokes a little bit harder, and I reckon the last couple of weeks when he's laid a tackle, he's really made sure that the midfielders have felt it when he's hit them. Yeah,
look, he doesn't mind shoving guys, but I mean, you'd hate for him to see some of the suspensions for sling tackles or illegal tackles or dangerous tackles and think, oh no, I better back off. That would be terrible. But potentially that's what's happened.
Yeah, it's probably gone a little bit too far, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, if you look at the Hawkins one, and we'll just diverge slightly here. But the Hawkins one, to me, was just it's a good footy tackle. He's come from behind. He's chased the bloke down. It's unlucky that what's happened, but it's still just a good footy tackle.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of those reports for dangerous tackles, sling tackles, I fail to see how they can be reasonably called dangerous with intent. Things happen accidentally, but yeah, it's stunning. I think that'll hopefully quietly just, peter out and we won't have them.
Well, if you want to talk about sling tackles, I think you look no further than what we saw last week when, Redmond got done for his and poor old Merritt was thrown like a rag doll and it was just called play on. I mean, the inconsistency in the tackles, you can almost, you don't want to excuse it from a game day point of view, but you can almost excuse it from the game day point of view because it's happening live and you got seconds to react. But Michael Christian has all the time in the world to review those tapes, and he is making some unbelievably inconsistent decisions.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, looking at those two that you mentioned, Redmond and Merritt, the Merritt one, the fact that it wasn't picked up by the match review panel is crazy.
I think the inconsistency must be driving the fans wild, and just in that game, it's a pretty good example too, Bonds, of the inconsistency. You've got two very, very similar tackles. One guy gets suspended for a week, and the other one isn't even looked at. I mean, it's incredible. And then the week before, Buddy Franklin, elbowed a bloke in the head and got off. So it's pretty hard to understand how it all works, to be honest.
It is. I will just say the one with Buddy though, because it did get mentioned a lot. Was Christian actually did suspend Buddy. He got off at the tribunal, same as Redmond. So that one's probably a little hard to understand how the tribunal actually let him off. But it's also bizarre that something like that, like Buddy throwing an elbow back, is only worth 1 week in the first place. I mean, I know they've got their point. They put this point system and grading system in to make it simpler, but they seem to have made it more confusing because some incidents like Buddy's are graded as medium, and then Redmond's is also graded as medium, when clearly one is much worse than the other.
Yeah, I think anything that happens in the act of playing football, such as a tackle, cannot be viewed in the same way as something that happens outside of playing football, like throwing your elbow back at somebody's head because they're upsetting you a little bit. The fact that those two incidences aren't treated differently is astounding.
Yeah, spot on.
Oh, we'll just bring us back to our game yesterday. One of the things I noticed, especially in that second quarter, was we had a lot of crumbing goals yesterday from our sort of medium to small forwards. I mean, Guelphy, how good was Guelphy's first goal in that second quarter where he literally just read it off the pack, streamed through, and by the time the Suns realised what had happened, he was 15 metres in space with an easy shot on goal. Waterman read the pack in the goal square and snapped that one. Guelphy again, his second goal was off the pack. Stringer did a couple off the pack. Like our small forwards, even though Tipungwuti didn't play, they still looked incredibly dangerous. And it was almost like they realised that because Tipungwuti wasn't there, they all need to step up to fill the void of the pressure and the speed and just the goal sense and tackling of small forwards. So Tip was off having, I think it was a 10-day training load to get him cherry ripe for hopefully our finals campaign. Putting him back into that side after with what we saw yesterday, it's going to be an exciting time come first week of the finals should we make it.
Yeah, look, and I don't want to say that, we're in year one of his 2-year decline already. But if he struggles to get back, it could be a sharp decline. And I hope I'm wrong, but this is a feeling that I get. But talking about Guelphy, I thought he was fantastic as well. He is when he's good, he's one of the most underrated players. And as soon as he has a bit of a down game, everyone jumps on him.
He's up and down, but you're right. But I think there's a decent chasm between his best and his worst, and I think sometimes it's fair enough.
Look, I'd suggest he's more up than down.
I tend to agree, and I think he will next year get the same treatment that I think Will Snelling has got this year, because I think last year Will Snelling was also getting the if he made a mistake, everyone would jump on him, even though he was probably more up than down. Whereas this year, because he's just been so consistently up, people have sort of forgotten how much they were jumping on him last year. And so I think Guelphy's in that transitional stage now where people are still jumping in on him for his mistakes, but he'll just reach that level of consistency next year in his performance that they'll forget about, all those little things. And when he does make a mistake, it won't be amplified.
I think that's a very good comparison between the two. Because I must admit, I was a bit surprised at Snelling. First that we picked him up, I thought another undersized mid, but he played pretty much most games last year. Is that right?
I believe so. Yes.
And again, that surprised me. But this year I thought he's been great. So and it's okay to admit that you were wrong.
He's a handy little player, isn't he?
Well, he's just a little nugget, isn't he? Really, Darrow. I mean, he laid 4 tackles or whatever it was yesterday, but he just has that almost bull mentality around him.
Yeah, no, that's it. He's like a little bulldog. He's like a little ball of muscle, floating around with a low center of gravity that keeps getting his hands on the footy, getting involved, laying tackles. He just seems to be around it. Yeah, he's turning out all right.
Yeah, he's got that little man strength. That's just the crazy little man strength.
I thought you were going to say he's got that little man syndrome.
Oh no. He's not that little, but he gets that glint in his eye. I think Devon Smith might have little man syndrome.
I actually didn't mind Devon yesterday. I thought, he lowered his eyes a couple of times. He was doing some late hits, but they weren't so late and so hard that he was giving away free kicks. He was almost sort of playing the role that we really need him to play. And again, I'm not sure if that was because Tip and Woody was absent and he realised he needed to step up, or if he's maybe just had a talking to during the week, because that time when he got that ball in the second quarter and was streaming towards goal, I honestly expected him, when he turned and looked like he was going to snap, was just going to try and blaze away from around his body at 45. But instead, he just hit Archie up beautifully, 25 metres out.
Yeah, that was great. That was that was the day that his heart grew and he finally became a man.
Darrow, do you want to handle that one? Because I have no idea what he's talking about.
I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story that Jamu is telling about a man who was angry and then
he turned a corner. There's other things, teamwork. He found the joy of teamwork, working as a team.
Now, I'm not sure if you guys have actually seen the draw for next week. So round 23 draw has finally come out. The Bulldogs and Port are playing on the Friday night. Now, I must admit, I had a bit of a laugh because I've been reading a lot of Hawthorn fans on the social media saying that they should be playing the Friday night game because it's Clarko's farewell. I don't think anybody could anybody really be bothered watching Richmond and Hawthorn in what is essentially a dead rubber. Honestly.
Ooh, can I handle this one? I've got 2 words. Fuck Clarko.
I mean, look, eloquent as always, and I tend to agree.
Yeah, I mean, look, Clarko's been a good coach, but he also did have a great list at his disposal, which I think we've discussed. I think maybe it was even with you, Darrow. We had that chat about whether it was coaches or lists that were more important. But anyway, I digress. They've actually been given the really early slot on Saturday, so that'll have pleased the Hawthorn fans. But we are 3:20 on Sunday, and West Coast play the day before against.
So we'll know.
Well, the other one is Fremantle play St Kilda at 12:15, so that game will be over by the time we run out. So we will know one way or the other whether or not we're actually having to win or whether we're already in.
I hope we have to win to get in.
No.
No, I like that. I like that extra pressure just to see how we perform.
Can't we just drop all our players if we know we're in and give them a week off or something?
Are they doing the bye after the last round anyway, before the finals, or have they?
No, they've scrapped that. They've scrapped that. So they're going to bring that in. That'll either be before the preliminary finals or before the grand final. And to be honest, if it's before the preliminary finals, whoever wins in week 1 is up shit creek, because we know. Well, I say we know, but there's evidence there to suggest that bye can really stifle sides. So sides that win in week 1 have the week off and then play the prelim against a side that's lost week 1 but is won week 2, because that side's got the continuity of games. The team that wins the qualifying final always just seems to be battling a little bit uphill. And if you throw the fact in they're going to have 2 weeks off between games, that to me just seems. It's a long time between drinks, as Essendon fans of the early 90s can attest to, when Collingwood and West Coast drew and Essendon had to wait the extra week to play again, and all of a sudden everything had gone to shit.
I reckon that cost us a premiership, actually.
So if you're going to do a bye during the finals, surely it's the week before the grand final.
Yeah, only 2 teams are affected anyway. Yeah, I never understood that the pre-finals bye, when there was all the momentum and getting the team ready for the finals charge, and then a rest and a relax and I never got it.
Didn't they do it because the sides were putting in really weak sides towards the end of the year and dropping games?
It was Ross Lyon in his St Kilda team where they made about 18 changes from the previous week.
But at the end of the day, if a side wants to do that, so be it. And I think didn't they end up losing the next week?
They did.
Yeah. So it's not exactly a successful formula.
Well, I reckon they should agree with you 100%, and I reckon they should get at the grand final, anyone who's on the list should get a medal, and bring them all out. Not piss about by having an Oz kid give one to them. That can just be saved for the players that play. But I think realising that it's a team effort for the whole year, you've got role players that need to come in and cover injury, and they contribute significantly to a team's success as well. I think, the fact that it's just a 22 is a bit of an anachronism for mine.
Feels almost like a little bit like a participation trophy.
I was going to say, everyone gets a medal. Come on, Jamie.
Oh, no. Everyone, it's a team game. Guys.
No, I'm only joking. I agree with you. And who was it? The Bulldogs player that missed out, the captain. His name escapes me at the moment. Good to see Bevo put the medal around him after the game.
Yeah.
Oh, Bob Murphy.
It was an awesome gesture.
It was, but then the way he sort of came back also made me hate on him a little bit the next year, because he just sort of came back in, wanted to be made captain. Well, because he was still captain, held on to his captaincy, when I think he probably should have given it to Wood at that stage, and then probably stunk up the rest of the season. But yeah,
it's good to see.
Now, I will just say, though, it would be nice to actually win the last round. So I know, I think, was one of you said that it doesn't really matter if we don't win the last game, if we don't have to play finals? You don't want to go into a final series on a loss, do you? Especially to Collingwood.
No, I want us to be in the position where we have to win, where we have to win.
Yes.
We carry form in, and, that would be my ideal.
Yeah, as long as no one gets injured. Actually, it'd be interesting to see whether Caldwell gets a run this week too. Be good to get some game time into him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah, well, him and Baldwin seem to be the standouts from that report that we saw coming out of the scratch match.
I think you got to think it would be a bit too premature for Baldwin, but Caldwell was starting 22.
No, if Sheedy was coach, he'd bring Baldwin in. The last time we actually won our last 3 games before finals was 2002.
Oh, man.
I mean, we haven't played a great deal of finals series since then, but yeah, we haven't actually gone in on a massive winning streak. And before that, it was back in 1999, which, I don't actually think they've played a final series that year, did they?
Not that I can recall.
But back on Caldwell, if he was from reading the report, he was clearly a step above everybody else. But who do you drop for him at this stage?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off a win like that, you'd think anyone would be a bit stiff.
I mean, I actually think to bring back Tip and Woody, it depends on when Tip is fit, but if they bring him back this week, they'll probably have to drop someone like Dylan Clark, who I don't think's done a great deal wrong since he's been brought back into the team.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough decision either way.
I mean, what would be
someone like Guelphy?
I don't think you can drop Guelphy based on what we've seen, but maybe you have to.
And who's our sub?
Well, Gleeson was the sub, because the other one is Nick Cox. So we've got to bring him back. Well, I say we've got to bring him back. We don't necessarily have to bring him back. But yeah, if you sort of look at the fringe players, Clark hasn't done much wrong. Cutler's at the wrong end of the ground, really.
Durham, you got to keep him in.
Have to keep him in.
Devon Smith, maybe.
Well, I've just said that he played the best game that I thought he played for a while. So I don't. Who are you dropping, Darry? Look at the side from the weekend and tell me who you dropped for Tip and Woody and Nick Cox, and I suppose Jai Caldwell.
Yeah, I don't know. They may have to stay out. I don't think I'd bring Nick Cox back in. I haven't been happy with him for a few weeks actually. Smith, yeah, I could probably live without Smith, given the way he's been mouthing off. Although he was better on the weekend, as you say. It's a tough one, really. I mean, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? At the end of the day, quality players who can't get a game. We're very close to full strength at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there were no injuries. Dyson didn't break a thumb or a finger or something.
No, exactly. And the other problem you've got is if you go the path of saying dropping Cutler and moving Francis back, none of the players, Tipungwuti, Caldwell, I mean, maybe Cox could play as that tall forward in place of Francis, who goes back for Cutler. But again, I don't think Cutler's done a lot wrong since he's come into the side this year. It's hard to drop anyone. It's whoever doesn't play this week, whoever gets dropped, whoever misses out, he's probably got grounds to feel a little bit hard done by. Because, I mean, again, Gleeson was sub on the weekend, but I don't think he did much wrong last week either.
He played his role, and that's the thing. People are coming in and playing their role. I think that's the big thing that I'm taking away from this year, Bonds. Now that you sort of raised it to an extent, you can bring guys in and they're capable of playing a role. And last year, some of these guys really weren't setting the world on fire. And someone like Gleeson, he struggled to get a game all year, came in, did a job. Cutler's the same. So it's tough.
And look, that's exactly why they should all get medals on grand final day.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm on it.
Yeah, all right. I'll concede and say that you're 100% right, and they should absolutely get the medals on grand final day.
All right, it's settled. We've got a quorum. Motion carried.
Yeah, so I'm just still looking at this side trying to work out who the hell they're going to drop. But yeah, good luck. Good luck to the coaches. Because the other bloke, we probably can't bring him back, but I would have loved for him to come back for one last tilt to the finals. Is Hooker, but there's just no way you can bring him back in based on his exposed form before he was rested, omitted, whatever you want to call it. You just can't bring him back, surely.
Look, not on the base, after that game, after that performance, such a high-scoring game as well. It's not as though we're wanting for forward options.
Francis has done all right too, hasn't he? He's shown a few glimpses. Is he the direct replacement for Hooker at the moment, do you think, or is it Big Wright?
I think it's a combination because, I mean, I didn't see Hooker getting up the ground as often as you see probably Wright and Francis. I mean, Hooker still went up the ground, but he's played very much closer to goal. So I actually think Wright and Francis are probably rotating a lot more than Hooker and Wright did in that role.
And then you've got to fit Jones back in there.
Well, is he done for the year, or is he coming back?
I don't think he's done for the year. I think there was a chance, not this week, but you'd have to bring him in for a final if we make it and he's ready.
Well, that's why I'm thinking about Cox, because the experience, again, he's the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's no one really else that you'd be wanting to drop because they're not the future. And still a very young side.
Yeah, still what were we, 24? Still, yeah, just under 25 years old in average, and we actually didn't have anybody above 30 on the weekend.
Yeah,
I don't think we've had anyone above 30. Probably once Hooker was gone, I'm not too sure there would have been too many others. Rakus would be the other one we've played this year above 30. I don't think there's too many others. Oh, Phillips maybe.
Is Phillips over 30? Is he that old? Been around that long?
Yes, Andrew Phillips is above 30. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just making that up and off the top of my head. We'll get Beery to stat check, and then he can edit in. Yes, Andrew Phillips is above 30. Or no, Andrew Phillips is not above 30.
Look, I do know he was born in 1991, so that would make him almost 30 at least.
So I'm borderline.
July. He is over 30. 3rd of July, 91.
So now you tell me Beery won't edit it into to have my be above or below. I'm not sure Beery would have edited that in for me anyway.
Are you good? Old man Phillips, yep, is 30.
I didn't think he was that old. There you go. Yeah, that's surprising.
Well, that's going to be helpful because it means we can trade him off for a first-round pick. Have your mate the twos as our number one backup ruckman, Darrow.
Yeah, winning.
Well, lads, the last thing I want to talk about is if we make finals, Would you rather Brisbane or Sydney?
I'd rather Brisbane purely to be able to, beat Brisbane and players that play for Brisbane that used to play for other teams. That would be my ideal scenario.
Is that because you want to beat Brisbane or because you want to beat he who shall not be named?
Look, I'm petty enough to admit that. It is that because I want to beat Daniher. Although I do think that would be quite hilarious that he's left to go to the team that finished first on the ladder last year and looking for some success, and we bundle them out in the finals. That would be brilliant.
I think that would be the perfect scenario.
From a footballing point of view, though, you'd rather Brisbane over Sydney?
I'd rather Sydney for sure.
I'm going all in on Brisbane.
Well, the other one is because Sydney. I mean, the Sydney game won't be played in Sydney. There's no chance the final will be played in Sydney. So we could end up getting a home game against Sydney.
Oh, okay. That would be nice.
It's the other way to look at it.
But it would be nice to beat Brisbane because of Daniher.
It would be, and you're right. I just think from a footballing point of view, we probably want to play Sydney. However, there is the third option in that the Bulldogs can still fall. So they can fall to fifth. And we did just beat them 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, true.
But we still consensus that if we had the pick of the three, we'd take Brisbane for the story.
Yeah.
Or Sydney for the footballing point of view.
Nah, bugger it. Brisbane for the story.
Alrighty, lads. Well, I think we've managed to fill our allotted time this evening. We don't want this to run too much longer. So thank you both once again for coming on this evening.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
And we will have another chat next week, and hopefully it will be to discuss the upcoming final series for the Essendon Football Club. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and have a lovely evening.